Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible force that's kind of shaping your world? You know, what you see online, who you might meet, even the opportunities that come your way. Well, it's not magic, it's code. And it's quietly running things in ways we're only now starting to get our heads around. So let's start with the big promise, the idea that this code is perfectly objective.
Yeah, we generally trust algorithms to be pure math, right? They're supposed to be these impartial tools that make everything more accurate and fair, from how the government works to the ads you see. The whole idea is that they're free of all the messy prejudices that we humans have.
But what if that code, the very code we designed to be so objective, actually ends up reflecting our worst impulses? What if it's not neutral at all? That's really the big question we're going to dig into today.
Okay, so first, let's look at the promise. For years, the story we've been told is that algorithms are going to make life way more efficient and a whole lot fairer for everybody.
And honestly, on the surface, it makes total sense. We see this all over the place. Netflix recommends your next binge watch, banks use it to decide who gets a loan, and super complex decisions get automated for speed and scale. The goal is just a smoother, more data-driven world.
And this is no small thing. As the Brookings Institution points out here, these systems are crunching massive, and I mean massive amounts of data to make decisions that really deeply affect our lives. It gives them this air of, scientific authority.
But that really optimistic vision, well, it has a dark side. And these aren't just simple glitches in the machine. They're actually revealing something way more troubling about the systems we're building.
Just think about a really high-stakes moment in your life, like, say, applying for a new job. More and more, your first interview might not even be with a person. It's with an algorithm.
Now, take a look at this. It seems innocent enough, right? Some companies use little games like these to screen job applicants. But what are they really looking for? Are these games actually assessing your skills for the job, or are they judging you on some hidden criteria you don't even know about?
And the bias can be shockingly blunt. I mean, researchers have found that AI models often just spit back old-school stereotypes, linking jobs like engineer to men and secretary to women. It's like a digital reflection of a very old, very human prejudice.
But this bias pops up in places that are even more critical. In the justice system, for example, algorithms are now making decisions that can literally change the entire course of a person's life.
Take a look at this number, 77%. Just let that sink in for a second. What on earth could that represent?
Well, a major investigation by ProPublica found that a widely used risk assessment tool was 77% more likely to incorrectly flag Black defendants as being high risk for future crimes compared to white defendants. This isn't some theoretical problem. This is a system that has devastating, real-world consequences.
So, why does this keep happening? It's because of a really crucial point we often miss. Algorithms aren't just born out of thin air. They're made by humans, and they learn from data that is packed with human history and all of our societal flaws.
The official term for this is algorithmic bias. The Brookings Institution defines it as systematically unfair outcomes for a specific group, with no good reason to justify that harm. Or, to put it simply, it's digital discrimination. A computer scientist named Joseph Weizenbaum absolutely nailed this decades ago. He said that code isn't just a bunch of instructions. It's a reflection of how the programmer sees the world, and that includes all of their assumptions and biases.
But even if a programmer has the best intentions in the world, the problem goes so much deeper. It's about the data itself, the stuff these algorithms are trained on. If that data reflects a history of inequality, well, the algorithm is going to learn to keep that inequality going.
And this slide illustrates a really dangerous feedback loop perfectly. Let's take predictive policing. So you start with biased policing practices which lead to more arrests in certain neighborhoods. This creates what's called dirty data, which then tells an algorithm that those areas are high crime zones. So what happens? The system sends more police to those same neighborhoods, which, you guessed it, generates even more arrest data. And the cycle just keeps going, reinforcing the original bias over and over again.
So when you zoom out, you start to realize these aren't just isolated mistakes. They're actually part of a hidden digital architecture that can amplify and literally hard-code inequality right into the fabric of our society.
And this is not a new problem at all. I mean, way back in the 1980s, a medical school in the UK had a program that was screening out women and minorities.
In 2009, Amazon accidentally blacklisted LGBTQ+ books, and just in the last few years, big players like Facebook and Amazon have had to scrap their own biased algorithms. The technology keeps changing, but the pattern, it stays the same.
This diagram here really shows the potential endgame, a whole new kind of social structure. You've got an information elite at the center, the ones who control and benefit from these systems. Then you have a majority of people who participate. But out on the fringes, you've got the unconnected, the excluded, the ones who are getting left behind by a world they have no say in.
And all of this leads to the final and maybe the toughest challenge of all, a huge lack of transparency. If these systems are so powerful, who's actually in control here? See, many of today's most powerful algorithms are what people in the know call a black box. We can see the data that goes in, and we can see the decision that comes out, but the whole process in the middle is a complete mystery, sometimes even to the people who created it.
So why is that? Well, for one, they're often protected as trade secrets, super valuable company property. They can also be so mind-bogglingly complex that explaining their logic is basically impossible. Plus, personalization means the algorithm is acting differently for every single person. And all this secrecy makes it incredibly hard to find and fix any unethical or biased methods hiding inside.
Which leaves us with one final critical question. In a world that's being run more and more by automated decisions, where a single line of code can decide your future, who gets to be the author? Who's held accountable when it all goes wrong, and who gets to hold the pen?